downpours will be across central areas. A good chance of avoiding showers in some places and staying dry. Fewer showers on Friday before wetter weather arrives for the weekend.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant, read my superstar panel. They're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is two new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think. Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. You're with GB News. The top story tonight, Tata, the owner of Jaguar Land Rover, is set to announce plans for a new electric car battery plant in the UK. The so-called Gigafactory, which is to be built in Somerset, could create up to 14,000 jobs, with indications the site will be near Bridgewater. It's not yet known how much in subsidies the government offered Tata to secure the new factory for the UK, but it's thought to run into the hundreds of millions of pounds. Darren Jones, who chairs the Parliamentary Business Committee, says the government subsidy sum will need to be looked at. Well, also in the news today, the BBC's acting chairwoman has been speaking to a parliamentary committee and talking about the huge pressure there's been on the BBC to name Hugh Edwards as the presenter caught up in recent controversy. The House of Lords Committee also asked the BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, why the organisation hadn't taken allegations about one of its most highly paid newsreaders more seriously and much sooner. The BBC boss confirmed it was in touch with the mother who made the original allegations against Hugh Edwards, allegations later robustly denied by her son. GB News understands 450 migrants have crossed the English Channel in small boats today. The news comes as the first group of asylum seekers will be moved next week to a barge currently docked in Portland in Dorset. The Bibby Stock home will be used to accommodate single male asylum seekers as part of the government's plans to reduce the cost of migrant hotels, which currently stands at over £6 million a day. The Home Secretary says the risk of a terror attack in the UK is on the rise. Speaking in Westminster today, Suella Braverman identified Islamist terrorism as the primary UK domestic threat. Ms Braverman also confirmed Northern Ireland-related terrorism remained a significant threat, with some dissident groups continuing to plan attacks. The former Manchester United footballer and Wales manager Ryan Giggs says he's relieved at being cleared of domestic violence allegations after charges against him were dropped. The 49-year-old was due to stand trial for a second time, accused of controlling behaviour towards his ex-girlfriend. But lawyers withdrew the prosecution. Judge Hilary Manley directed that he was not guilty on all 3 counts. Ryan Giggs had denied the offences, and his previous trial ended last August with the jury failing to reach a verdict. The first British passports bearing the title of King Charles will start being issued this week. The post-Brexit dark blue travel documents read His Britannic Majesty on the inside page. The last time that appeared on a British passport was during the reign of King George VI, the late Queen's father. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your nightly run through the next day's newspapers with 3 comedians. I'm one of them. I'm Leo Kearse, and I'm joined by Josh Howie, who's soon to perform in New York, and Paul Cox, who's soon to perform in Portsmouth. It's still glamorous. How are you both doing?
Great, thanks, Leo.
Very good, mate. How are you? Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I feel like I should have put some stuff in my hair, some goop in my hair for... I forgot.
Thicken it.
Yeah, frankly, yes, I'm in my 40s. Anyway, that's enough insults. Let's look at the front pages. The Telegraph has Bank axed Farage as he doesn't align with our values. The Times has legal fears over gender guidance for schools. The Express leads with PM, toughest ever laws send clear message to migrants. The Guardian has revealed soaring toll of 28,000 convictions for COVID breaches. The Daily Mail leads with top bank lied over Farage ban. The Daily Star has Hugh's a Willy Wonka. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Telegraph, Josh.
So, yeah, the big story, Bank axed Farage as he doesn't align with our values. This is something that he obviously revealed himself. This is the ongoing thing. Now, what they initially said was, and they released it to the BBC sort of underhand, oh, no, it's because he didn't have enough money in his account. Now, he requested a sort of the documents that they had on him, and it reveals this sort of 70-page document that they've basically been sort of spying on him over the last year or so, and taking note of his social media and whatnot, and it shows, and these are the most six terrifying words for any institution that controls our money. His views do not align with our values. Well, look, my values, and maybe the values is the wrong word, but my political opinions do not align with Nigel Farage, right?
Yeah.
I have marched repeatedly against those opinions. But that is not the same as withholding him the essentially human right that we need in this society where cash is going out to own a bank account, to run a bank account, to run your life.
Article 23 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says the right to work, the right to receive wages.
And the right for the BBC to wrongly report this when it first came out a couple of weeks ago. And gleefully, oh, he doesn't have enough money. Well, the other thing was that all these other people online and all these commentators are going, oh, well, this just doesn't happen. It's Nigel Farage. It's not him. It's actually, it turns out, it's his family members. And not just his family, and other people, other Tory politicians, family members as well.
They're
having their accounts closed, that aren't being able to open their accounts. The government says they're looking or they're taking steps to sort this out. The fact that we've even got to this point is ridiculous. I'm glad that someone is looking at it. They need to sort this out right now because this is fundamentally wrong in our society.
I mean, do you miss the days when banks and corporations just wanted our money instead of to police our thoughts and opinions?
Yeah, I don't know when they started to pretend to have morals. Josh has nailed this. There's not much more to say other than...
Shut up!
Thank you, Josh. But this is purely political, OK? Nigel Farage is no more of a risk at all, reputational risk or otherwise, to Coutts than any other political
Apart from the
figure.
drug dealing.
Apart from the drug dealing, unsubstantiated.
But then we'd all be kicked out of our banks.
Exactly, you've got to make money somehow. However, what I would say is he is not a risk. He is not a risk. And they flip-flopped all over the place. We know this is lies. We know this is covering up because of the flip-flopping. At best for them, this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy because they can now, as the all the scandal and nonsense that comes with this sort of stuff, they can point to things and go, yes, but look at this and look at that. None of it's true. None of it's true. He's not getting the Russian money.
And the whole thing of reputational risk to Coutts. Nobody knew that Nigel Farage banked with Coutts. It had to be revealed. I mean, the bank, even when he came out and said my bank's removed my account, nobody knew what bank it was for several days until it was revealed. It's ridiculous. And for the BBC to just uncritically, unquestioningly repeat Coutts' PR saying that he just didn't meet the financial threshold, which is clearly just complete bogus.
By the way, one of the things in the report is that he shared the Ricky Gervais clip of his stand-up where he's saying that only that women don't have penises. And that was what they're putting down as aligning with their values. And look, Nigel Farage has obviously a huge profile from being on this channel.
And some other things.
And some other stuff as well. And I'm grateful that to him, I mean, I'm sad to him that this is what's happened, but we have someone with a high profile fighting this to bring this to light because there are smaller organisations, and I've been aware before of smaller gender-critical organisations, certainly there's wings up in Scotland, that have had their accounts just closed unceremoniously, and this needs to be called attention to, so at least it is now.
Absolutely. Moving on, what is on the front cover of the Times, Paul?
Oh, legal fears over gender guidance for schools. So the key salient points here are that this is around social transitioning, Leo. So this is about the idea of people being able to socially, locally, casually transition to any gender they wish to do so.
I'm a woman.
You are, to me. And what's happening here is Sunak essentially is trying to make this unlawful. But he's being told that it would be unlawful to do so, and he'd need to pass his own legislation for him to enact a law that would prevent this from happening. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with someone socially doing anything. The problem comes when they demand that society agrees with them come what may.
And refers to them as a dinosaur
whatever it would be.
Whatever they identify as.
These are all anecdotal, but they've been proven time and time again. People will say, I just said it's anecdotal, but people will say that this stuff doesn't happen. It clearly does.
Just go on TikTok. Literally go on TikTok, type in cat people or identify as a cat, and loads of videos will come up.
Well, this is the thing, Josh. I mean, this is at the level of sort of indoctrination. There's been such a huge surge in the number of young people identifying as different genders, not just different genders, but different species and even different forms of matter. You can identify as the moon and things like that. I mean, this is. It's like a cult-like religion.
No, it's a fad. It's a fashion. That's what it is, and it's going. And it's a fashion.
But unlike fashions in the 80s, when you got a mullet, you could grow a mullet out. If you have your penis removed, or if you have a penis created and your breast removed, that's kind of harder to grow out.
Well, also
or get rid of the double denim.
Yeah, well, exactly.
A permanent mullet.
Yeah, but unlike also the 80s, the teachers are not encouraging students to get the mullet.
Yeah.
And also, if anybody says, "Oh, that mullet looks a bit rubbish," They're not threatening. They're calling him despicable and threatening to kick him out of school.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to do is it's about safeguarding, and also it's about who influences your children.
Yeah.
Do you have the influence on your children? Do you have control over what information that they get and what they have access to, or are the teachers pushing the stuff on
because
them?
Paul, I mean, that's the terrifying thing, because parents aren't being informed when their children socially transition at school, and that's quite often the pathway to fully transitioning. So I mean, parents who are usually generally the best custodians of their own children, rather than some blue-haired indoctrinated communist primary school teacher. Don't you think it's dangerous for the state to step in between the parents and the children like that?
It's terrifying. It is very dangerous. And what's happening here is, well, quite often, and I have done, and I know we just did then, is criticise teaching and teaching staff for not standing up against it. In many ways, they have absolutely no idea what to teach. They are completely at a loss. So what happens is they get in third parties who come in, some quango will come in with their bits and bobs hanging out and tassels all over the place and say this all stuff's true. And they do it in a way that's kind of like a nasty person. I'm trying to think of the right word for TV, but like a nasty person would. They will go to the child and say, you shouldn't tell your parent about this.
Which is the language of groomers. This is, I've got some puppies in the van.
Well,
it's that kind of...
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, it just happened to my kids a few weeks ago. The way they do it, they tack it on to a bunch of very viable and real stuff, like tackling homophobia.
And making sure people feel accepted.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. And then they sort of go, and also there are all these genders or identities or sexes that you can identify, and there's pansexual, and all of this stuff gets them confused. You have girls in my kids' classes who wear trousers and have short hair and whatnot, tomboys, essentially.
Yeah, they're the teachers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now suddenly what? And they go, no, you're non-binary because you're... But the problem here legally...
Which is homophobic in itself.
Yeah, well, exactly. Of course, I mean, these ridiculous ideas of what gender is...
So, we've got to...
Move, go!
Sorry. What's in the front cover of the Express, Josh?
Oh, yeah, much. Let's get to the Daily Express. PM, toughest ever laws send clear message to migrants. So what they're going to do is, they've got this headline here, and they're going to fly all the Daily Expresses over to Calais tomorrow, so they're going to be able to read them and then get the message that now we've got some tough laws.
Well, it's great that they're getting used to Britain. They're getting ready for integration by learning to read the Express.
Oh yeah,
but the laws. I mean, the Rwanda plan still isn't through is still being refused by the courts.
No, but what this is that it's a big deal for the government. They've been pushing through. There's been a lot of pushback from the House of Lords.
Yeah.
It's gone through now, but there's still... Because what the House of Lords are trying to do was, what the government would say, water it down, but what the Lords would say would provide protection for pregnant women, for children,
So about 3 of the migrants that come across
I know you always say
each
it's
year.
all like Albanians, but the majority...
No, it's men.
Yeah, but the majority of the nationality that have come over by those boats in this year have been Afghanis, running away from the Taliban.
Oh, great! They've got some great attitudes to women and gay people. I'm sure that'll be a fantastic.
Some of them fought in the war, or protected our troops, or whatever. And the other thing that hasn't happened yet is we haven't seen a legal route to claiming asylum. So that's the problem here. Anyone who comes over now and tries to claim asylum
surely
here
if you're claiming asylum, you should claim, in the first place you can, rather than
maybe they've got family here. Maybe they've got family here.
Half of the world.
All right. Well, they get to France. Maybe they have family here in England. Maybe they speak English because they were English translators when the English were over in Afghanistan.
There are lots of... There's a lot of maybes.
All right, there are a lot of maybes. Well, what about them?
OK, well, we've got to go to a break now. That's it for part 1. But coming up, we've got more bombshell stories. Donald Trump is going to be arrested. 28,000 were arrested for lockdown breaches. And Islamic terror in the UK is making a comeback. It'll be fun. Don't go away.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm still Leo Kearse. He's still Josh Howie.
No, I'm not.
And that guy over there is still Paul Cox.
Hello.
And let's get back into it with the Mail now, with some good news for anyone nostalgic for large-scale Islamic terror attacks in the UK, Paul.
Still there. It's still there. UK's terror threat once again rising as it's revealed 39 failed attacks have been launched since 2018, Leo, including MPs, Pride, London landmarks. Interestingly...
And those are the targets, not
those
the
are
terrorists.
The targets. They're not the people carrying it out. London landmarks, fearsome gang. With 75% being sort of from the Islamic area and 25%, the remaining quarter, being right-wing extremists. So that's averaging about 8 attempted attacks per year. Now, I'm looking at those statistics and I'm thinking, we should just put them on an island somewhere, maybe the Isle of Man, and get them to fight each other out here, because they could really, you know, if you've got 75% here and 25% here, that's not that is an unfair fight, but I think it would work out, Josh.
It would be like the old football firms.
Yeah, why not?
Islamic extremists.
They might wouldn't that, you know, I mean, I'm not being facetious, but it would make us safe at least. Why can't they just fight it out with one another? It's not gone away, though.
Unfortunately, they have a common enemy. They're called Jews.
And I mean, this sort of brings some. We previously in the last section we spoke about the cross-channel migrant issue, and obviously some people have abused the ease with which you can cross the border into the UK to come into the UK and commit terrorist atrocities. I mean, the Liverpool maternity bomber was an asylum seeker. The Manchester Arena bomber was saved from Libya by the Royal Navy.
Yeah, and they're also homegrown terrorists as well.
Well, this is a terrifying thing because the culture, the ideology doesn't extinguish with the next generation. We're seeing it, you know, continue, and Britain is now in fact an exporter of terror. The mosque attack in Texas was a British-born man.
Yeah. And the problem is, they're saying it's going to get worse. Suella Braverman's saying partly through possibly AI, but also with, I think, 4 of the 9 attacks are by people who are coming out of jail or have been in jail.
Yeah.
And now a bunch of people are about to get out of jail.
So they're getting radicalised in jail?
Well, no, they were radicalised before as well. And you have they're saying there's about 40,000 Islamic extremists. Obviously, the security service cannot watch them all.
Yeah.
They used to be like allied to certain large organisations, and whatever. Now they're much smaller cells, people acting independently, so it's much harder to keep an eye on it. But I seem to remember some sort of report about a year ago, was it in The Guardian or something, saying that seems to suggest that most of the terrorists that are being watched were actually right-wing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
The Guardian is ridiculous. In fact, The Guardian will probably say that these terrorists are actually just they've got imbued with white supremacy, and that's why they're committing these terrorist atrocities.
75%, as you say, of MI5's time is taken up by the Islamic threat, with a quarter for right-wing extremism.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it hasn't gone anywhere. Obviously, they've done a good job for stopping the attacks that they have stopped. Which is great.
They need to be correct. They need to be on it every time, whereas the terrorists only need to succeed once when we get another horrific atrocity. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we've got The Guardian now with a stark reminder of the authoritarian madness of lockdown, Josh.
Yeah, more than 28,000 convicted COVID rule breaches in England and Wales. So what's absolutely mental about this story is that people are still going to court now. Even though it was a couple of years ago, even though the restrictions stopped, people are still going to court. They're still getting fined thousands of pounds. I think the average is £6,000, but people have been fined up to £10,000.
£10,000?
Now, Boris Johnson got a £50 fine for what he did. But there are people here, someone who went to, an 18-year-old who went to a party. There's a guy who came in he got the details wrong because they closed hotels. And so, sorry, not hotels, they closed airports. So he came back on a return ticket and he got it wrong. He's been fined like £11,000 for coming in to the wrong airport.
Yeah. And he was just trying to keep his business running. He was on a business trip.
Yeah, he was on a business, and they changed the rules whilst he was out in Turkey on the business trip. So, and this article is in The Guardian, which also riles me a bit, because they were one of the big cheerleaders of the whole lockdown, of these fines and whatever. And the government are now trying to say, oh no, we didn't mean it for to get fines and criminal records. By the way, about 3,000 of these are actually technically criminal records now that you can search them up. And they were like, no, you should have just got a little slap on the wrist and a little fine. But the problem is, it went through the system and then it get automated. Some of these didn't get letters, they didn't pay their fine, they didn't know, and then they've been fast-tracked, so they've just been escalating every time from £50 to £1,000 to £2,000 and criminal records. It's mental that they're still doing this, and they're wasting all our money by continuing to convict people.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, this is the worst thing. I mean, the government wasted so many tens of billions of pounds over lockdown pursuing, ridiculous, the PPE contracts and all the rest of it. And now you'd think this would claw some of the money back, at the very least. If we're going to send people into penury for breaking these ridiculous rules, at least we'll get some money back. But we're not, because of the costs of prosecuting.
They made these rules up to the extent that virtually nobody understood them anyway.
Yeah.
So they're convicting people of rules that were, first of all, made up, extremely confusing. It's no wonder people were confused by it. Nearly every single person that's been convicted of any of these crimes probably should be pardoned, and will be at some point. I can't see how they won't be. How can you be fining 18-year-olds 10 grand 3 years after the madness finished?
Yeah.
It's absolutely mental.
For an illness that barely affects teenagers. It's a nonsense.
By the way, a guy here fined £2,000 for eating a burger in his car. Dominic Cummings driving, and again, it's the hypocrisy here of the leaders of the country, the people who are writing the rules. Dominic Cummings with the people with their eye tests and Boris Johnson and the parties and stuff. That's what drives people so mad.
Yeah.
But it's even triply more unfair for these people who are being fined thousands of pounds.
It's a nonsense. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Times now, and the Commonwealth Games, which are a sort of rubbish Olympics, are under threat, ironically, because of a lack of wealth, Paul.
Yes, crazy. This story really is crazy. The head of the Commonwealth Games has said that the Federation is considering legal action against the state of Victoria, obviously in Australia, after the shock decision to abandon hosting the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Now, what's amazing, first of all, for this is only 20 years prior to that, in 2006, Victoria held the Commonwealth Games.
Yep.
So why they can't do this at half the price, I have no idea.
Yeah, did they not keep the stadium?
The infrastructure's still there. So they're trying to rebuild the infrastructure, which is madness in itself. And why give it back to them? There must have been other people in this race. I'm not entirely sure, it's not entirely clear to me in the story who's lost out here. But if you came second to this several years ago, you'll be looking at this now going, Why is this the case? And how can it be a surprise that it's double the price? Every bid is double the price. So that's how you get to the price, isn't it? You make it up, you win on that, and then you double it.
It's the public sector, contracting for jobs. I mean, Josh, are you amazed at the cost? Because, I mean, it's basically a school sports day.
Well, the big part issue is, wherever they decide to do it, it's costing them about $1 billion, and those towns and cities want to make sure that they're going to get value for money.
Right.
So the question is, for them, is the Commonwealth Games worth it as an institution? Will it raise that kind of money? Are people bothered about it, as you were implying? Should it exist still?
People don't even care about the real Olympics. Never mind this shoddy knockoff Olympics. It seems to be, the last vestiges of a crumbling empire. Anyway, moving on. We've got the Telegraph now, and it looks like Donald Trump's first action as president could be to pardon himself and release himself from prison, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, so Donald Trump said he expects to face arrest and criminal charges after a federal investigation into efforts over the 2020 presidential election. Now, I genuinely believe, irrespective of what you think of Donald Trump, that going after a previous president for anything is a mistake. It is...
Well, if he committed crimes...
However...
Yeah, but can you think of a president who didn't commit crimes?
Well, I think an insurgency, which is what they're trying to get him for, that's a pretty big crime. Anyway, sorry.
Was it insurgency or was it just a picnic that got out of hand?
I'd like, to make my point, I'm just going to park that to one side for a minute, because I think politically it's very dangerous. It galvanises his support, without a doubt. It puts him... he'll certainly be the Republican candidate, almost certainly, as a result of this stuff alone. And if he was to get in again... where does that leave American politics? Where does that leave global politics? Because the first thing he's going to do, like this suggests, is it's just going to be retribution after retribution.
Yeah, and Josh, doesn't this mean, with this hanging over him, he's really going to have to win the presidency? He's going to pull out all the stops to win the presidency because it's his only way of staying out of jail.
Yeah, but I would argue that he was always going to put everything into winning the presidency. Anyway,
he seemed to coast it last time.
He was giving it. No, he just gave him 20%.
He just got.
I'm going to come up with even more offensive nicknames for people, just to say. But no, it's all right. If he's done for insurrection, then he will not. Then he is not legally allowed to hold public office.
No, that's what they're trying to do.
That's what the legal. That is that if he is found guilty of insurrection, he cannot actually hold public office.
Right, but is it just insurrection? Is it that specific
That's just
crime?
insurrection, yeah.
So this just feels like a political witch hunt. This feels like something that would happen in a banana republic to stop an opposition leader getting in.
Well, but it's also run by, the institutions themselves. Now, if you're saying that all the institutions are... I mean, things did happen.
Captured by this blob, by this leftist blob.
But there's evidence, there's some mad evidence of stuff that was going on in the White House to try and overturn the election. They were talking about taking the vote boxes. It was like...
Well, I'll tell you what is also
invoking
insane.
martial law.
I'll tell you what is also... Isn't this equivalent to invoking martial law? Like stopping a candidate, stopping the leading opposition candidate from even being able to
because
run?
that affects the general public.
That's ridiculous. And also the Democrats and the entire left-wing establishment were in cahoots with the media, with all big business, with everything was working together. And if you want to talk about fascism, or people have called Donald Trump a fascist. Fascism is when an authoritarian government co-opts private business and the workings of the state, the machinations of the state, into its mission. And that's exactly what the Democrat Party did.
But that's exactly also what Trump was trying to do.
Yeah, he was trying to do it, but he couldn't do it because
just because they failed.
The institutions, the media weren't on his side.
If they're trying to invoke martial law to overturn the election, that is against their democracy.
That's just what he wanted to do. He had no chance of actually doing it.
Look,
the Democrats could actually do what they were doing.
Let them go to court in their country. Let them do whatever they want to do.
Let them go to the Banana Republic kangaroo court and we'll see who comes out. Anyway, that's it for part 2. But coming up, stop funding hate are anti-Semitic, the Taliban are doing a great job, and everything is racist. It's a normal day in 2023. Don't go away.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, it's Aidan McGivern here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. It's been a damp day once again across many central areas. The rain, though, does ease overnight with clear spells emerging, but there will be further showers arriving on Wednesday. We've had a feature move through during Tuesday. That's pulling away into the North Sea at the moment and taking its rain with it, although it will take a while for eastern parts of the UK to be clear of rain and showers. Elsewhere, a lot of cloud remaining, but the clearest skies will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, albeit with a few showers into the northwest, and temperatures where we get the clear skies dipping into the low double figures, mid to high single figures. A milder night to come, though, in the south, 15 or 16 Celsius as we wake up on Wednesday, and still a lot of cloud around for eastern and central England, East Wales, and some showers. But more widely, into the afternoon, we're going to see a mix of sunny spells and showers. The heaviest downpours will be across eastern England, central and eastern Scotland. The driest weather will be towards Wales and the southwest, 22, possibly 23 Celsius in the south, 18, 19 for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fast forward to Thursday, and it's a bright start for many, a cool start to the day. But quite quickly we'll see the cloud build and we'll see showers developing once again. This time the heaviest downpours will be across central areas. A good chance of avoiding showers in some places and staying dry. Fewer showers on Friday before wetter weather arrives for the weekend.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views, and often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think. Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's get straight back into it with The Telegraph, who have proof that Stop Funding Hate, the group who pressure advertisers into boycotting GB News, are themselves openly hateful and anti-Semitic, Paul.
Well, I'm, for one, extremely shocked. Leo, a senior staff member of Stop Funding Hate, the organisation behind advertising boycott of GB News, has defended Hamas and been accused of sharing anti-Semitic content online. Amanda Morris, specifically, the community organiser for Stop Funding Hate, has been criticised for several social media posts, including from 2021, promoting the phrase hashtag from the river to the sea, a well-known chant used by Hamas to call for the destruction of Israel.
Yeah.
Now,
and the extermination of Jews.
Yeah,
in
half the world. I've looked it up and it's harrowing. It's ridiculous. I'm going to let Josh talk about that, but it is very nasty stuff. But this is no surprise to anyone, isn't it? It's always the male feminists that turn out to be the wrong 'un, and it's always the Just Stop hate groups that are fuelled by hate. This is just another example of the emperor's clothes. No one calls it out. Everyone sees this stuff. This particular lady quite clearly got an axe to grind and is no better than any of the people that she criticised. In many ways, having now looked up hashtag from the river to the sea, she is a lot worse.
Yeah. I mean, Josh, you'd agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the hypocrisy that we've seen for years now on the far left. And the fact that they're calling out GB News and Daily Mail and various other things for having different views on other subjects. By the way, not all views that I agree with, but the point is the ability to have these views. Now, if she thinks that part of free speech is for her view to be able to call for the genocide of half of the world's Jews, which is what From the River to the Sea is. That's fine. Don't be a hypocrite about it. Don't be hired by this organisation that is calling for stopping hate when actually you have people working for you who are spreading hate. Also, when you work with this organisation, Ethical Consumer, which support BDS, which is about which is basically to stop people buying any goods from Israel and whatever. It's a
boycott on Israel.
Yeah,
the one democratic country in the Middle East.
Exactly. The one Jewish state in the world where there are 22 Arab states, and also when she's calling it like the genocidal Israeli government, it's a strange genocide when the Palestinian population has increased tenfold over the last 70 years.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff, again. Look, I'm used to this stuff. My Twitter, my feed is people just shouting stuff. And it's not just, by the way, Hamas, a terrorist organisation who are sending over thousands of rockets to innocent civilians. And I was there a few weeks ago when a rocket was sent over, not attacking like military targets, attacking children, attacking anybody, women, children. It's just so frustrating. And this From the River to the Sea thing. And I've heard comics shout. They don't know what they're doing. Or when you see it, these big marches and whatnot, it's like that's what you're saying. You're saying the erasure of these people.
I mean, anti-Semitism seems to be a complete blind spot in the minds of woke lefties who, will condemn you for getting a pronoun wrong or for voting for Brexit. Meanwhile, they're happy to support, happy to support terrorist groups that want to exterminate Jews.
That's because it's not what's being said, it's who's saying it. So they will go along with whoever is saying it because they are on their side of the argument. They won't look into it. I was unaware of this hashtag.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
We've got The Guardian now, and sticking with the anti-Semitism theme, this story is unfortunately a bit closer to home, Josh.
Yeah. Jewish group criticises GB News host, not you, over dangerous conspiracy theories.
So this week.
Yeah. So let me hopefully not be accused of hypocrisy. Here we are in the last story, calling out someone for their anti-Semitism from the far left. Now, I don't know Beverly Turner. She's I think a host for the morning, but obviously we don't get up that early. So I don't know where her politics are. I do know that vaguely that she's very much involved in the whole COVID stuff. Some people call her a COVID conspiracy theorist. What she said in a tweet. I'm not happy with this tweet as the representative of all Jews ever. Is that she says that COVID caused less harm to certain ethnicities, East Asians and Ashkenazi Jews, and then she puts in brackets Fauci anyone. Now, number one, Fauci is not Jewish. He's Italian. So yeah, he's Italian descent. So like, so what are you trying to say? Like Fauci was involved and he's Jewish and whatever, and then basically says that it was that it implies that it was.
Engineered to attack certain ethnicities and spare others. But that doesn't check out in the data because data shows that Orthodox Jews actually suffer from COVID more.
In the UK, Office of National Statistics show that Jews died per capita twice as more than Christians, basically. Right. So this thing that she's allegedly, this report that she's looking into, whatever, is wrong. Yeah. It's a controversial report, and she's sort of mirroring what Robert Kennedy said in America on the weekend, but I believe his thing was slightly misaligned. He was talking to the concept, and he's retracted it and also clarified it, but he was talking about the concept that it's the possibility of making these things. What Beverly Turner did is now she's deleted the tweet, good, but she went a step further, and she basically is like implying, or literally laying it out, that is this like part of some conspiracy to target minorities or whatever, and protect the other minority. And I just want to say that that goes into an age-old trope about Jews spreading disease around the world. So I'm glad she deleted it. I feel sad that it's come from someone who works at this channel, which I love this channel.
Everybody makes mistakes. That's why pencils have erasers. Anyway, we've got the Mail now, and the Taliban are doing a better job of levelling up Afghanistan than the Tories are doing in the UK, Paul.
Yeah, colleagues laid into Tobias Ellwood for posting a "Wish You Were Here" clip, talking about his recent visit to the war-torn country. So Mr. Ellwood, a former soldier, argued that the evidence showed security had vastly improved, corruption reduced, and opium trade ended. I don't know what part of Afghanistan he went to. This sounds...
No, in fairness, they have clamped down.
Under control.
They've got the opium trade under control, the heroin trade. So I mean, it's bad news for Scotland. They were hoping to cut a deal there, but I mean, it's good news for Afghanistan, and anybody believes in a country not being based on narco profits.
Well, exactly. This does read a little bit like a really posh kid has gone on a gap year and come back and has found anything positive to say about their trip. Either that, or it's the same as sort of he's been captured and he's just trying to say anything to get himself released.
I mean, but he hasn't been captured.
He hasn't been captured.
Yeah, but it's a serious thing here where you have Afghani women not allowed to go to school, schoolgirls not allowed anymore. They're, having to be escorted.
How are they going to identify as another gender if they can't go to school?
Well, yeah, exactly. But look, the point is there's some serious human rights issues going on
in Afghanistan
with the Taliban and whatever.
I've heard it all now. Anyway, we've got The Guardian now, and men have found a new excuse for not helping out at home, Josh.
Yeah, men want to increase their care work at home, but social structures block it, report says. Now, this is a study of Colombia, Rwanda, South Africa, Australia, Ireland, China. I'd argue that there's some big cultural differences between all these different countries and the US, and they're basically saying that guys want to help out more, but they're kind of held back by partly because in some of these countries they earn more money, and also by these social structures or whatever. Now, you got a new baby, you got kids. I look after my kids. Like, this whole concept of guys not helping out as much or being useless drives me absolutely mad, because I spent 10 years knee-deep in these nappies or whatever.
Well, you're not supposed to let them build up that high, Josh. That's one of the mistakes that men make. Yeah, we don't put them in the bin.
Yeah. It's frustrating. If you want to do it, you can do it. If you want to help out, and it's great, and it's a great thing to do.
Anyway, that's all for part 3, but coming up in the final section, we've got a fat activist, a badger that kills dinosaurs, and a story about Viagra that will keep you up all night. See what I did there? See you in 2 minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my new show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m, where real people get to meet those in power and hold them to account. Every week, we'll be hearing your views from up and down the country in the real world. Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners, and let's get to it. Kicking things off with the Eye, which has a woman complaining about Viagra. Is she just being too hard on it, Josh?
Oy, foreplay just vanished 25 years on. What, 25 years? How Viagra changed sex for older women forever. Have you guys done Viagra?
No.
I've never... I mean, genuinely, I'm not boasting.
I know.
It gives you a blocked nose. Because it expands all the capillaries and stuff.
Definitely younger men who don't need it use it to maintain.
That's why I used it, because I'm younger.
There we go. So what they're saying is that in all of the studies and all the culture, it's become part of our culture now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
No one's ever talked about the effect that it has on women. Because it's that, like, now...
Well, I hope it doesn't give them an erection. I mean, it might do. It's 2023.
But you just don't know anymore. It is quite interesting that there's only been one study about what effects it's had. And basically it's because when you're bringing sex back into a marriage or relationship that hasn't had it for a few years because of some problems down there, for women it's caused UTIs, pelvic pain, thrush. Hey, have a nice sleep, everybody. or good morning and whatnot. So it's an interesting angle, and also it seems to be
an interesting angle.
It's all about the. Yeah. All right, fine.
Josh,
whatever.
Taking the story seriously.
Anyway, I did a lot of research for this story.
Anyway, we've got The Guardian now with a fat activist moaning about seat sizes. It's got to be a tough job being a fat activist, by the way, because if you get too active, you might stop being so fat. Josh, please enlighten us.
Josh, give it to Paul.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, give it to me. Why not?
What's the name, Paul?
Recovering fat man. The recovering fat man does.
You're allowed to do this story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are my people, Leo. Making seat measurements readily available and providing alternative options would enable everyone to have a nice time at theatres, cafes...
Not the person next to them.
Any place where there are seatings. Now, I mean, this isn't such a bad idea. However, but I have never... I mean, I am a recovering fat man. I will return to being fat one day. It's inevitable. But I have never, ever struggled to sit in a standard chair, not a standardised chair. I don't know if chairs are standardised. However... You know, inevitably, these places make their money on numbers. If you've got a certain amount of people in a place, you can make a certain amount of money. So prices are just going to go up. So you're back to the old argument, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, and this article,
argument.
she's saying, like, you know, oh, I don't fit in any of these seats, you know, even the wide ones. And so she's basically demanding that they rip out all the seats in the venue and replace them with one big reinforced throne for her.
I think you just... But also she says they should give information on their website, one of them being, do the chairs have a weight limit? Now, if you're going to break a chair...
Bring your own chair.
If you're going to cause wrought iron to buckle, then perhaps you should stop eating the pies. Is that a suggestion? I don't
think any of this is funny. I think it's really funny. I mean, she did. You know, I mean, I do feel for her because
it's Sophie Hagen. It's a comedian, Sophie Hagen.
Is it Sophie Hagen?
Named
after
the ice cream.
I honestly didn't get to the end of the story.
Could you not tell from the relentless moaning about seat sizes?
So, I mean, I found myself.
In fact, she got a little plug for her tour.
I didn't even know Sophie was fat.
All right. Well, I know 5 fat people, and she's 3 of them. Anyway, we've got the Telegraph now with good news for anyone who can only face the gym once a week, Josh.
Yeah, weekend warriors are as healthy as daily exercise, the study shows. So the gist of it is, as long as you do like about 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week, people recommend it, do a little bit every day or every other day. Now they're saying just cram it all in, it's totally fine. And people are saying also, doctors saying, oh no, but it might stress your joints or your heart, or they're saying, no, it actually doesn't. So really, you just don't need to exercise. Just one day, take some drugs, take some speed, go for a run.
Schaefer's appeared.
This is Dr. Josh Howie from...
I mean, I've adopted the same thing with my drinking, to be honest. I don't really get a chance to do it that often because of our job. So
I'm not sure this is such great advice, because I mean, they do say there are minimal extra benefits from working out, you know, more than once a week, but there are some benefits.
It wouldn't work for me. I've lost weight by exercising every day, whether it's a little bit, whether it's a significant amount, just doing it every day to keep myself active.
Right.
While you can, you should, is what I say.
I just do speed once a weekend.
We've got the Times now, and it looks like the next Jurassic Park should have a badger as the apex predator, Josh.
Right. Yes, fossil shows prehistoric badger attacking dinosaur. People are very excited about this. Those, as the Daily Star would call them, the boffins. And basically, it was captured during. It's part of China, which essentially just had this sort of Pompeii moment where they were frozen.
Oh yeah, we've got the image here.
There it
so
is,
it shows the. Apparently, they were stopped by some natural disaster while they were fighting.
They're having a cuddle.
Well, actually,
this is totally misinterpreted.
It's a vegetarian dinosaur. So the idea is that dinosaurs
rule non-vegetarian badger.
Yeah, and the dinosaurs rule the world, but this is throwing that idea on its head.
Yeah, badgers rule the world.
Badgers rule the world.
Or possibly gerbils.
Or giant rat, maybe. Something like that. Anyway, but this is exciting stuff for geeky people.
OK, well, staying with geeky animals, we've got the Telegraph, and sharks are showing that Jeffrey Dahmer might have been onto something, Paul.
Yeah, the screams were unmistakable as the fins circling the man in a pristine blue of the Red Sea last month, a 23-year-old, again, another victim of sharks, and they're saying that humans essentially are becoming slightly more yummy to sharks. My solution to this is stay out of the water. No one has ever been attacked by a shark in a Witherspoons.
They've been attacked by a woman with a stiletto who's drunk too much white wine.
Very dangerous as well, I'd say. But the point of this story is that, you know, in places where sharks are and humans get in the water with them, the attacks are going up. They are rare and they are infrequent but they get reported because they're so, you know, it scares us.
They're so notable.
We are all of the same generation. I found it very difficult to swim in the sea in the 80s because I grew up watching Jaws.
Right.
What about, from a previous story, bringing the fat people into the sea?
Yeah.
Whatever. So
the sharks can't get a bite on them. That could actually work.
And also, they'll help with
sharks
global...
Well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages.
There was a punchline there.
The Telegraph, sorry, we're going to have to do it another time. Tweet out later. Telegraph has bank axed Farage as he doesn't align with our values. The Times has legal fears over gender guidance for schools. The Express has PM, toughest ever laws send clear message to migrants. The Guardian leads with revealed soaring toll of 28,000 convictions for COVID breaches. The Daily Mail has top bank lied over Farage ban. And finally, the Daily Star with Hughes a Willy Wonka. And those were your front pages, and that's all we have time for. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Simon, Josh and Nick. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Bye. Bye.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, it's Aidan McGivern here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. It's been a damp day once again across many central areas. The rain, though, does ease overnight with clear spells emerging, but there will be further showers arriving on Wednesday. We've had a feature move through during Tuesday. That's pulling away into the North Sea at the moment and taking its rain with it, although it will take a while for eastern parts of the UK to be clear of rain and showers. Elsewhere, a lot of cloud remaining, but the clearest skies will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, albeit with a few showers into the northwest, and temperatures where we get the clear skies dipping into the low double figures, mid to high single figures. A milder night to come, though, in the south, 15 or 16 Celsius as we wake up on Wednesday, and still a lot of cloud around for eastern and central England, East Wales, and some showers. But more widely, into the afternoon, we're going to see a mix of sunny spells and showers. The heaviest downpours will be across eastern England, central and eastern Scotland. The driest weather will be towards Wales and the southwest, 22, possibly 23 Celsius in the south, 18, 19 for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fast forward to Thursday, and it's a bright start for many, a cool start to the day. But quite quickly we'll see the cloud build and we'll see showers developing once again. This time the heaviest downpours will be across central areas. A good chance of avoiding showers in some places and staying dry. Fewer showers on Friday before wetter weather arrives for the weekend.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Tonight, I'll be showing you the Coots files. Yes, I told you last night I'd received them back. They are full of malice and full of prejudice. And I'll be asking the question, could you be next? But before all of that, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you, and good evening to you. Our top story tonight. The BBC Director General has been talking to a parliamentary committee today, and he said staff at his corporation are confident in the broadcaster's whistleblowing processes. The House of Lords Communications and Digital Committee asked Tim Davie why the organisation didn't take allegations against its most highly paid newsreader more seriously and sooner. The BBC boss confirmed the organisation has been in touch with the complainant who originally alleged Hugh Edwards had paid a young person for explicit images. Now, GB News understands 450 people have crossed the English Channel in 9 small boats today. The news comes as the first group of asylum seekers will be moved to a migrant barge, which is currently docked in Portland in Dorset next week. The Bibby Stockholm, as it's known, will be used to house single male asylum seekers as part of the government's plan to reduce the cost of housing migrants in hotels. Local residents are calling for the barge to be removed elsewhere. The Home Secretary says the risk of a terror attack in the UK is rising. Speaking in Westminster, Suella Braverman has identified Islamist terrorism as the primary UK domestic threat. Ms Braverman also confirmed Northern Ireland-related terrorism remained a significant threat, with some dissident groups continuing to threaten attacks. The former Manchester United footballer and Wales manager Ryan Giggs says he's relieved at being cleared of domestic violence allegations after charges against him were dropped. The 49-year-old was due to stand trial for a second time, accused of controlling or coercive behaviour towards his ex-girlfriend, but lawyers withdrew the prosecution. Ryan Giggs denies the offences, and his previous trial ended last August with the jury failing to reach a verdict. In news from the United States, Donald Trump says he expects to be arrested by an inquiry into the Capitol riot and challenging the 2020 election results. The former US president says he's been informed he's the target of the special counsel investigation. Donald Trump also claims he's been sent a letter saying he has 4 days to report to the grand jury, and he argued it was almost always means an arrest and an indictment. The special counsel hasn't yet commented on that. And finally, the first British passports bearing the title of King Charles III will start being issued this week. The post-Brexit blue travel documents will say His Britannic Majesty, and that'll be for the first time since 1952 they've been issued under that title. On TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Well, last night I told you that I'd received the subject access data I'd requested from Coots Bank, the bank who cancelled my account. Now, bear in mind, this is important. This is not just about Coots, and it's not just about me, because NatWest is part of the same banking group, and they have 19 million customers. So the culture that exists within these organisations, how they treat their customers, matters to a huge number of people in this country. Now, they had a deadline of 30 days to respond, and on the 30th day, interestingly, after close of business, it arrived in my inbox. It is 40 pages long. It contains 17,801 words, and that actually is a redacted number. There's an awful lot here that I've not been given, just things that directly affect me. It has linked to it at least 83 separate news and media articles, every single one of them against me. The word Brexit is mentioned 86 times. I get the feeling the corporate banks will never forgive anybody involved with the campaign. And appallingly, the word Russia is mentioned 144 times. Yes, all part of the Russia hoax. The word racist is used 12 times. Well, I suppose we could have expected that from a group who are filled with malice and the very special kind of prejudice that you only get from the upper middle classes with metropolitan views. The word PEP, politically exposed person, is used 10 times in the document. Well, you might have seen the BBC coverage just over a week ago. A source from Coutts told their business editor Simon Jack that the reason my account was closed is because I fell below the financial threshold required to hold an account. Yet this document, which is from the 17th of November last year, which was the meeting at which the decision was taken I would be exited in 2023, this document proves that was wrong and reveals that the real reason I was cancelled. So what really happened? My request for data shows me this November meeting of the Coutts Wealth Reputational Risk Committee. And they discussed how they could exit me from banking with them. Well, the extracts I've got from the minutes of that committee are really pretty damning. Quote, the committee did not think continuing to bank Nigel Farage was compatible with Coutts, given his publicly stated views that were at odds with our position as an inclusive organisation. Their recommendation was that once I'd paid off my mortgage, which I did in early March of this year, that my Coutts account should be shut down. In April, I received a telephone call to say my account was being closed. I received a letter confirming the account would be closed, no reasons given whatsoever. It's only when that I complained to the chairman that I got a phone call from Coutts saying it was being done for commercial reasons. Well, on the 17th of November last year, that clearly wasn't the case. Alongside the minutes from the meeting, I was also sent the papers presented to the committee. And it is a compilation of information that Coutts put together on me, none of it positive, and it starts by saying my economic contribution to my bank account is sufficient to retain on a commercial basis. Are you watching this, BBC? This completely tears apart the lie that they were told. They say also in the report there is a lot of adverse press about me. Well, there's a lot of good press too, but a list of links is provided to articles from, and you've guessed it, The Guardian, The Independent. Subjects include Russia, pro-Putin, Russia Today links, racism, xenophobia, Black Lives Matter, anti-Semitism, climate denying, anti-net zero, gender issues, fascism, and supporting an anti-vax stance. I mean, frankly, it couldn't be more negative. And much of this has been disproved in a court of law when Aaron Banks recently comprehensively won his libel action against that journalist from The Guardian who really fostered the Russia hoax. You see, the establishment couldn't accept Brexit. They couldn't accept the result. They did everything they can to try and find a reason, and they believed it was Russia. Well, it simply isn't true, and it really is time the Russia hoax ended. Examples of direct things they linked to are when I called Grant Shapps a globalist. Somehow, calling someone who's a Remainer and a globalist, for them, that was code for anti-Semitism. Have to be honest, I didn't even know he was Jewish, but never mind. Advocating for the government to leave the ECHR. I mean, this is something else that is on their very, very long list and crime sheet. And, worst of all, the endorsements of this man.
The man behind Brexit and a man who led brilliantly the United Kingdom Independence Party in this fight and won despite all odds, Mr. Nigel Farage.
Yes, you've guessed it, the 45th president of the USA, Donald Trump, and he's mentioned 14 times in this document. Another extraordinary sin is that I've been backing Novak Djokovic and interviewing his family. And there I was in Djokovic's trophy room in Belgrade, talking to his uncle whilst he was under effective house arrest in Australia. Apparently this is something else that is on the long, long charge sheet. You would think reading this document, actually, that I was getting ready, they were the prosecution for a very, very important criminal trial. And, I mean, try this for size. even when I retweeted this clip of Ricky Gervais, which they describe in the report as a transphobic comedy sketch. Well, you watch it. You make your minds up.
The old-fashioned women. Oh, God. You know, the ones with wombs. Oh. Those dinosaurs. Oh. No, I love the new women. I know the new women. They're great, aren't they? You know, the new ones we've been seeing lately. The ones with beards and they're as good as... They're as good as gold. I love them. No, it's the old-fashioned with it. And now the old-fashioned, they go, oh, they want to use our toilets. Why shouldn't they use your toilets? For ladies. They are ladies. Look at their pronouns. What about this person isn't a lady? Well, his penis. Her penis, you bigot.
Well, I still think it's brilliant, and I was very happy to tweet it out. I just hope, for Ricky Gervais's sake, that he doesn't bank with Coots, as some people have suggested that perhaps he might. But let's move on to the more serious issue, the Russia hoax. Throughout the report, they mention Russian quotes like, while it is accepted that no criminal convictions have resulted, oh, that's nice of them, commentary and behaviours that do not align to the bank's purpose and values have been demonstrated. The memos state at least 9 times that there is no evidence of links to Russia. They've even run checks on my transactions to make sure that's the case. And yet, Labour MP Sir Chris Brandt, using parliamentary privilege, his false allegations in the House of Commons are mentioned twice and are seen as a big risk factor in my debanking. Quote, in making the decision, risk factors including accusations of links to Russia, controversial public statements which were felt to conflict with the bank's purpose. Well, what is the bank's purpose? Well, we had a look at this.